Thank you for joining Effortless Attraction. My name is Evelyn McAleer. I'm the author of A Life You Want, Effortless, and The Woman's Journey. I'm a life coach, business mentor, and inspirational speaker. And my greatest value is making a difference in people's lives. So I hope through these podcasts, I can make a difference to your life. I want to thank you for your continued support to Effortless Attraction podcast. I want to thank my paid subscribers. You make a difference to my work and to my life. And I hope through these podcasts, my mission is to make a difference to the lives of others. But with your help and subscription of £1.99 per month, you really do help support this work. If you'd like to become a paid subscriber, you will find the link in the main profile. Thank you so much. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on another Effortless Attraction podcast. Well, today I am joined by a very elegant lady from West Galway. Her name is Rachel Gotto, and I'm going to read out a lovely introduction for Rachel. So Rachel is a midlife coach and clinical hypnotherapist. She is a living embodiment of resilience and recovery. Rachel's life story reads like a series of trials that would test the limits of anyone's courage. She faced the heart-wrenching loss of her beloved brother to cancer, followed a year after by the devastating blow of her husband's passing while she carried their unborn child. A brain tumor diagnosis led to a life-saving neurosurgery that left her paralyzed, and she confronted battles with epilepsy and prescription drug dependency. Through unwavering determination, Rachel defied the odds. Today, she stands as a shining example of the remarkable human capacity to heal and to overcome. Her journey informs her work as a midlife hypnotherapist and coach, infusing it with a unique edge born from personal experience. Her best-selling memoir, Flying on the Inside, encapsulates her insights into the resilience of the human spirit. And apart from all of that, she's also a TEDx speaker, and that's where my journey began, or our paths crossed with Rachel this year in Downpatrick. Rachel, I want to say thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing this amazing story with us today.
Oh, well, it's lovely to be connected again. We met that day in Downpatrick, and there was obviously some connection between us. So it's really nice to be speaking.
And, you know, I always say sometimes when our paths cross with people, sometimes we can't remember what it was exactly that they said, but I remember the feeling that I was left with. Now, I have to say, to my own detriment, sometimes it takes a lot to capture, for me, my attention to be held. But there was an essence, as I've read about there into your introduction, and what you have came through. But I do remember something, and I don't think it was mentioned here. And do you mind if I start with this? Because I absolutely love hearing people's story. And you're going to have to build us up to it as well, Rachel.
Sure.
Of having an outer body experience.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, it's really something that I didn't speak about very much. I mentioned it briefly in my memoir because it never seemed significant, to be very honest, until many, many, many years later when I was reflecting and wondering, you know, because there's a sense of aloneness that can come when we're going through major challenges and struggles, and we can often end up feeling really that life has deserted us and that no one, not even God or spirit or whatever we want to call it, is on our side. And yes, it was true, but I didn't want to blow it into something like, you know, we see a lot of this near-death experience. I had people come to me when my life was literally hanging in the balance. And the story is, I was trying to fit through a doorway, and I can clearly even remember the doorway. I didn't describe it very in great detail on the TED Talk, because of course there isn't time, but you know, it was a Middle Eastern doorway for some crazy reason, and it was really ornately carved, and it was really thick, dark wood. and it was on its side, and I was being compelled to follow through that doorway. I had to go through the doorway. I was being drawn through the doorway. And because it was on its side and because of everything, I couldn't fit through it. And Evelyn, as I shared in my TED talk, suddenly I wasn't alone. Suddenly I was aware that there were two people in front of me. And their energy, it was actually a man and a woman. And they had dark skin. They were very much American, and they had a drawl, which I presume comes from Louisiana or somewhere down south, treacly accents. And they were so kind and so warm and so rich is the word. They were twinkly and full of loving energy. And they were there to say, you won't get through that door. You're not expecting to go through that door, are you? Because you're not going anywhere. You're staying here. And now when I look back, it's such a comfort, because I had sort of got this idea that in my cells that I was deserted by life at that time, and that it was just me battling against, challenge and battling against life and battling to stay alive. And actually I wasn't alone, was I? I had these two beautiful people who were on my side, and they cared, and they were emanating a warmth that I will never forget.
Well, Rachel, see, I jumped ahead there and went till when you crossed over. But when you talk about resilience, that you are living proof of it yourself, what we can deal with. And you were faced with extremely hard times, personal circumstances with your husband, and then your own. I mean, these are things when we see other people's lives and we say, you'd never wish it on your worst enemy. Are there times I often think, as you say, I feel abandoned, whatever belief that I had in something bigger or greater than me, I've been abandoned. I've been left. Why me? Why did this happen? What were your dark times, if I can take you there? And I don't want to stay there with you either, Rachel, but it's just for anyone that's listening, when they're going through times in their life where they think, I cannot go on.
Yeah. And it's true, isn't it? We don't like to reflect on these dark times, but they've been great learning by sharing the dark times. Well, between you and me, Evelyn, there were times when I didn't know if I could stay alive between lunchtime and 4 o'clock. I was quite literally living from minute to minute, resisting what my mind and my brain was trying to encourage me to do, which was extremely dark. And I have been to places where I've been living with flashbacks of my husband's death, because I was there, continual flashbacks, and sense of not having any control over my destiny and my world, because so many things went wrong that I almost was like punch drunk. And those Skittles that with the roundy bottoms, and they fall over and they come back up again. Every time I surfaced again, there was another, mallet that hit me and knocked me over. So I lived in the dark times for quite many years, actually. But what I learned about the dark times is there are often little tiny glimmers, little tiny nuggets, little tiny elements of light that if we get really good at training ourselves to look for them, of course, we're not going to affect change in our whole, the global part of our lives. But what we can train ourselves to do is jump onto those moments and jump onto those diamonds in the dust, as I like to call them. And very, very soon, we get good at linking them together. And in my darkest moments, I started to write Post-it notes to myself to remind myself of that diamond I found maybe this morning or yesterday, because my mind did not allow me to believe there was any goodness in my life. It only wanted to protect me by showing me all that was wrong. And so I tried to find those little glimmers in the tunnel, the dark tunnel that I was in. And that is something that we can use to help us to get through really, really dark and challenging times, is to remind ourselves there is something, and that I am not deserted, because even the fact that I'm alive, life has not deserted me.
Powerful. And you were left paralyzed. And now I have to learn how to walk again. And you became, I don't know if it was addicted, but to the medication that was being prescribed. And you managed to change that about then, Rachel, too, after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just a miracle. I always think miracles show up for us every day if we just watch out for them. Here they are. Here's one here.
Well, isn't it great? I put a post on LinkedIn today, which was actually about we need more hope in the world, because there is a conversation which I think is incredibly valid, which is around mental health awareness, mental health issues. But we tend to focus on, this is what is happening if you have mental health issues. This is how you feel if you have this. But how many times do we start flooding our minds and our stories with hopeful stories of positive outcomes? And I think that that's what I believe I've been left here to do, is to show us that we can go through really, really, really bad times, and we can still come out through it again, and we can still form a new life. And we generally form new us, new we's, or, we're not the same person, but I celebrate that. I don't think, when I look back, I don't know who I would have become if I hadn't have been so deeply challenged. I'm not sure I would approve as much as I approved of the me now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. And in the bad times, and no matter what anyone's going through, we think we're never going to get through, but you do. And I know it's no good saying to someone at that time, you are going to come through this. It really doesn't help, because I'm like, I want out of this now. And I remember even talking to a gentleman, Dr. Jeff O'Driscoll, in America, where he went through a very dark period. But he would have said about spirit, he would have heard, not now. It wasn't his time yet. He says, I obviously had something more to learn on this journey, and I don't know what it is, but I know when I get through it. But while you're doing what you're doing now, Rachel, as you say, you've had the life experiences, and sometimes it has to shove us onto the right path. This is where you're meant to be. This is what I want you to help people with. This is the messenger you are. This is the healer you are.
Yeah.
Will you tell us a wee bit about the hypnotherapist?
Yes.
Will you explain to me what that is?
I certainly will. Can I explain to you first how I became a clinical hypnotherapist?
Surely.
It was actually to do with neuroplasticity, because after I had neurosurgery to remove this inoperable brain tumor, which obviously was operable, but just had to find the right man, I was left paralyzed down the left-hand side of my body. And the neurosurgeon said to me, look, we've created an enormous amount of brain damage. We don't know if you'll move again. Time will tell. And I was sent to a brain injury unit to recover and ostensibly to learn how to live with my physical challenges. And I had been left-handed, and overnight I had to learn to be right-handed. And so I spent months and months and months and months staring at my left hand, willing it to move. And at the same time, I was needing to find dexterity and train myself to write and to do all the things, the ordinary things like brushing our teeth, which is so difficult with your non-dominant hand. And so if we fast forward many years, I was starting to recover to the point where I wanted to do something more. I'd gone through the phase of, learning how to be in the world again and learning who I was and growing my confidence and self-esteem. And I was ready. And I knew I was ready to give back. And I had read medical books since I was a small child. I had trained to be an acupuncturist, but one of the life traumas stopped me doing my finals. I trained to be a naturopathic nutritionist. Another tragedy happened and stopped me taking my finals. And then, of course, the paralysis stopped me being an acupuncturist when I recovered. because I needed to be dexterous. And my right hand is good, but it's not good enough for stabbing people with needles, believe me. So I was hunting around and I said, what can I do now with my experiences? And what can I do that is cutting edge and exponentially exciting? Because I don't do boring, as you can imagine, having led a life like that. I wanted to do something that was fully engaging and on the cutting edge. And it was when I recognized that, hey, I've actually got my right hand working and I've made it my dominant hand. And I looked into that. Of course, that's neuroplasticity. So what can we use neuroplasticity for in therapy form? And of course, hypnotherapy is neuroplasticity in therapeutic form. And so I love being a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm also a life coach and midlife coach, but there's something so incredible about rewiring the unconscious programs that we hold. So in essence, basically, hypnotherapy is about utilizing a part of our mind that is there and working all the time in the background, but most of the time it doesn't serve us. And as you know, because you're also working in the same field as me, belief systems and acquired belief systems are what govern our lives and how we respond to life. So with hypnotherapy, we utilize the mind to find out what is the root cause, the origin, and the reason for our difficulty. So if we just fill in ... depression, the belief that I'm not good enough, we can literally ask the mind, where did you acquire that feeling? Where did it originally come from? So what we do then is we install a new program, just like upgrading the computer. But it's not fringy and it's not weird and it's not woo-woo, because 95% of the mind is unconscious, 5% is conscious. And we are going into hypnosis every single day. When you drive home and you can't remember the drive and you go, oh, how did I get past those roundabouts? And, and I've no memory of it. You're coming home in a program. Your mind knows exactly the way home and you're responding to that program. So if we take that as an analogy of your thoughts and your emotions and your actions as after the thought, then what we do is we just go back to the original memory where we began to erode our self-confidence. Most of it happens really before the ages of 8. And we get it through memories or scenes from the mind. So there's a scene of a girl sitting on a wall eating a chocolate bar with her father and he loves her. And immediately she links a belief that sugar equals love. So that's how that belief is formed. So I was speaking on Radio Kerry this morning about literally sugar addictions. Her association to love and happiness and contentment is a sweet thing on her tongue. So we get the memory of that with her father. And what we do then is we have her say, that's not me anymore. I'm not that hopeless, helpless child anymore. I'm a fully fledged grown-up woman. I can make better choices for myself. So we're altering the belief, we're altering the program, and we're installing a new program on top of it. So it's very exciting and it gets incredible results, particularly with trauma and depression and anxiety and prolonged grief. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that seems to be one that comes up with people, if their forms dip. They say, I've suffered with depression in the past and I don't want to go there. Now, I'm no expert on the matter myself, but I know we're not born with it. And I know we experience it, but then when we identify with it, and for sure, I would safely say if I went to the doctor times in the past and give a diagnosis of how I was feeling, I know I would be prescribed tablets because they would have said, you're depressed.
Yes.
But I do believe there are things that we experience, but do people become attached to that, Rachel? I am depressed, I am anxious, and believe that, and it can and persists in their life?
I think what it stems back to, again, is what we were speaking about a minute ago, is hope. I am a great believer in medicine. I wouldn't be alive without it. But I think that we also need to have another kind of, energy attached to the side of that. And this is hope, because once we get a diagnosis, as you say, we become depression, we become anxiety. And we're almost training ourselves to understand that there is no separation between my experiences and my mind and what I choose to think about something. And in terms of in hypnotherapy terms, we would consider depression suppression, suppressed emotions. And that's what happens when we're not good enough and when we're not validated in childhood. What we do is we actually push it all away and shove it somewhere, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just becomes compressed and compressed and compressed. And we know through neuroscience that, the mind, body, and spirit, they're all interlinked. So we cannot compartmentalize our emotions and shove them in a corner and hope that we can just get on with life. Eventually they start to squeak out and bulge out and ask to be heard. So I think that we do need to be really careful about how we identify with a label, and also understand that if we are experiencing emotional difficulties or mental health difficulties, they tend to do this. If you take a real check in yourself, it's never a flat line of
and yeah, so Rachel was doing a wave because we're doing audio here.
Sorry.
Like a wave, they go up and down.
Yeah.
Like contractions.
Yeah. And contractions or sound waves. And that we need to be just a little bit more open to understanding that there's a lot we can do for ourselves. And there's so much that we need and must, and we should do for ourselves, on top of course, getting professional support.
Well, one of the things that I would say is a huge, huge importance to your life. And I see many a picture. You could be sitting with a pair of Wellingtons on you. You could be out on a boat. You could be in with Mother Earth. You're very much about getting into nature, Rachel. The importance of it for us all.
Yeah, I am. And, it probably sounds like small piecemeal if you're really suffering today. And you go, yeah, great, get out in nature. I remember when I was a very, very small child, we lived in a very, small village in West Cork. My parents were not very happy in their marriage. The home was a bit chaotic. And I remember putting my head on my bed and bawling my eyes out because I was so miserable. And I remember my mum coming into the room and saying, come on, we'll go for a walk. And I remember her saying to me, I don't want to go for a walk. I'm miserable. And she said, come on, go for a walk. I promise you, you'll feel better. And that has stuck with me all my life. And every time something goes wrong, and by God, does it still go wrong? It's not perfect by any manner of means, as you know, and I know. I always make sure that I move what I'm doing. I move my body. Because once we stop being the rabbit in the headlamps to whatever is going on for us personally, we move the energy, we allow ourselves to expand our brains and possibly feel the sunlight or hear the rustle of the leaves through the trees. All of that serves to change how we're thinking and experiencing and feeling in the moment. And plus, there is so much evidence out there that bathing, as we call it now, which is just going out into nature, has a physiological, emotional, and spiritual healing effect on us. So why wouldn't we do that? And that, as you say, you'll see me rowing my little boat, you'll see me sitting on the beach, you'll see me with my wellies on, digging or whatever. I know what keeps me well. And I need to keep well. I didn't just get well and stay well. I have the same jobs that we all have to do, which is to be responsible for my mental health. And that's outside of nature is where I do genuinely feel the best.
Yeah. And the people that have been coming here for podcasts or even guests, and we're sitting outside, and we're blessed today that the sun is shining today. And it's so lovely to get sitting out and feeling the sun on your face. But nature keeps coming up all of the time. And even the significance, we're talking about the creatures, how intelligent they are. They know their organization, they know what their job is, they know what their purpose is, and how effortlessly that it works. It's just sometimes us humans get a wee bit confused because we have this other thing attached. But yes, nature wants or asks for nothing other, I believe, to enjoy, to respect, and be still and know. I use that all the time. Be still and know that you're never alone. You're always walked with. And take solace, as you have, you the word, you seek your solace in that there's a peace I believe is something that we're all in search of, that inner peace, and to bring hope, if we can, through our own journeys in life. Rachel, talk us through your beautiful book, Flying on the Inside.
Yeah, I love the title, and I can't claim that I came up with that title. It was actually my partner Malcolm, because I said to him, "What would you say if you encompassed my journey through recovery?" And he said, "Even though when you couldn't move, you were still flying on the inside." And it's just what it does is it encompasses this innate driving force towards healing that I speak about a lot, because I do believe that I was kind of pulled towards healing, that it wasn't every day, that it was mindset. And, I felt that I was being urged towards healing. You know how the seasons change and spring comes and then there's this urge to blossom. I felt the same force compelling me and drawing me towards that. And Flying on the Inside had to be published, because I wanted people to hear my story, for one, and number two, align themselves in some way with that journey that I took, to hear and see themselves on that same continuum of, yeah, it can get really bad, but yet there is this continuum of life that we continue on. And then I wanted to inspire people to believe that they can recreate life. They can recreate themselves in a new form, a better form, a better incarnation, a better invention. Because often we can grieve the life that we had, and we can grieve the person that used to be. I remember waking up one day and saying, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know if I like who I am. And I wanted to share that message, that is us in metamorphosis. This is us growing into our new pants or our new sweater. So it's to be patient with the process, and to look again for those diamonds in the dust, to remind yourself that life created you and life wanted you here. And that life is always tinkling around you and twinkling, and it's hoping and wishing you well upon your journey. And when things aren't right, remind yourself that times are a-changing, the world is turning, and the day comes for night, so will it wait for you. The light will come on again. And in the meantime, hang in, keep doing what you're doing, because you will get there.
Yeah. And I think anybody that really goes down any coaching route, or they've had to come through, there has had to have been something, because it allows you then to have empathy. And as you say, it may not be that someone has had a brain tumor to be paralyzed, but in some way that you can relate to my story. Strange enough, that was my own mother had a brain tumor, and she passed at a very young age of 45. But yeah, it's amazing the things that have happened all in our past, everyone, to bring us to where we are at this point in time. The people's paths that we get to cross, even if they're only for 5 minutes, 5 hours, and we just happen to be staying at the same hotel, and and I was there with Jim that was filming, and it's amazing then that I'm able then to do an interview with yourself, Rachel, that perhaps there'll be someone else that will get to hear your story today that may bring them hope in something they're battling with in their own life. I just think it's fascinating. Tell me what you work with, or share with us how you work with clients or companies.
Well, I work as a clinical hypnotherapist and midlife coach primarily. I do speak and I do share, and I share my story widely. And I work online and I work in person. I have the most gorgeous home office here in the West Coast of Galway, and I have people come from all over the country to come to this gorgeous little oasis. I'm in the trees and there's a pond, and it's just the most lovely healing place. And I have a roundhouse, which is very unusual, and the energy in it is quite phenomenal. So my clients get to see me in person or online, and it can often sound trite, and I'm sure maybe you can identify with this. We turn around and go, oh, I'm really passionate about what I do. I genuinely sometimes feel I should be paying my clients, because I am doing what I was born to do now. I am doing what I'm meant to do at this stage in my life. I don't know what I'll be doing later on because I plan on leading a long life. But right now, I am doing exactly what I am supposed to do. And the experiences I had were right and true and correct for what I need to do and how I need to work. I genuinely believe that none of this is an accident, that all of this was sort of meant to be, and I was meant to go through what I went through so that I can truly identify, empathize, and connect with my clients on a deeper level. Plus, I have a toolbox that is limitless. And I'm so grateful to have those experiences. So I have that limitless toolbox. I really am.
I love that. I have a limitless toolbox. The word midlife coach. Well, I'm guessing what midlife coach is, but tell us a wee bit about midlife coach. Now, is this the midlife crisis? Is it male? Is it female? Is it, I don't know where I'm going in life?
Well, I say midlife coach, I suppose secretly, I'm really meaning midlife crisis coach, because this is where I am at my best. I'm at my best when somebody is really struggling. I always joke and I always say, you know, you want me to be around when there's a disaster, because I'm the type of person that I come into my own when things are really tough. I become alive and my brain works in the most ingenious ways. And so a midlife, will we call me a midlife crisis coach for today? I work with women and sometimes men who are finding themselves at the real difficult bottom rung of that ladder, where they ask those questions when they say, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't even know if I like who I am right now. And they're saying, why me, or how? And my energy, which I bring to them, is what's next? Because I'm always saying that when we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, we're not anywhere near getting to dead. It's not over. And there's a whole life journey ahead of us. There's a whole path out there in front of us. And what I want to do is get you to be curious and excited and ingenious, because yes, we honor your experiences, we honor where you're at. But the whole point about coaching is, as you know, it's future focused. Let's say what's next on that path. Let's say what can I populate the next part of my journey with. And that's what I love to do. I love to bring people from looking only for glints of diamond in the dust into the sunlight. And that journey is a fully encompassed partnering and guidance, and all of me doing it with my client. We need to be connected, but we also need to feel that we have, got somebody who's really on our side, because life can get a bit tough.
Well, I can effortlessly feel your passion. I can feel it here. It's like a breath. I can breathe. I love people who are passionate and are on purpose and are here to serve. And I genuinely believe, Rachel, I know for myself, I would say 35 when I made life-changing decisions for my life. And I think when they hit that 40, early 40s, there's something changes. There's something starts to happen. And when I look back in life, I know that this part of my life exists. I know it did, but it seems like, and I talk about energies and vibrations, when you shift, it's nearly like I have experienced two lifetimes in one world.
I love that. That's such a great thing to say. And how do you live with the two? How do you do that? I'm so excited.
It's like a reincarnation. I know that I've been there. I know that I've done that because there's evidence of it, but I don't know whether it feels like I've done all these things, but it really feels like I've had two lifetimes in the one. And I know it must be one lifetime.
Well, we think so.
That's another podcast.
That's another conversation.
Oh, Rachel, it's been a delight. For anyone that would like to follow Rachel, I know you're on LinkedIn. It's Rachel Gotto, Gotto, on Instagram and on Facebook. And Rachel, I'm going to ask this question. You said you were from West Cork. Well, I don't detect any Cork or Galway accent there. It's quite a posh English accent, it sounds
And that is a whole other podcast. Because we could talk about sense of belonging and where you're really from, and all of those conversations. But I'm tempted to be really cheeky and say, well, if you really want to find out, you can read the book. But that wouldn't be fair. So what I'm going to say is, briefly, we came from England on a boat, a big old wooden boat in the late 60s. And the idea was we were going to sail to New Zealand and start a whole new life. Now, I wasn't born, okay? So I'm saying we, the others. And what happened was they decided to go around Ireland first, like the whole of Ireland. And then they landed in a place called Glandore in West Cork. And they were so entranced and so in love with the beauty of the place, they actually never pulled the anchor again. And we set up life in West Cork. And it's a funny thing, but there were difficulties in the late 60s. And, English people weren't that welcome, to be honest, in Ireland, So I kind of had to duck and dive, and I had two accents. I had my outdoor accent and I had my indoor accent. So in my maturing, and I'm doing my inverted commas maturing, one day in my 40s, I had to make a decision, because I was basically a chameleon and I was running with the hare and hunting with the hounds. I had to make a decision to show my true accent and what I really sounded like without any blending. Okay. So I always felt really grown up when I chose to out myself as having this accent. Yeah. And it was literally overcoming I'm not good enough to do it. And so I actually love it when people ask me, because it is a funny story how we got there and how I got to this.
I was just thinking, when many a boat was leaving to head to England, you were coming the other direction.
I know.
And that's another part of your resilience. I'm heading into West Cork, Rebel County here, with an English accent.
And there were many skirmishes, believe me.
Rachel, thank you so much for your time today. And ladies and gentlemen, anyone that wants to get the book, can we get it on Amazon, Rachel, or where is it available?
Amazon.com.
Flying on the Inside. And do follow this lady. She's full of inspiration. A toolkit. What was it? Of a limitless toolkit. And that's what she does. She meets with her clients online, or if you fancy seeing the woman in person, in West Galway. South Galway? West Galway.
West Galway.
West Galway.
Yeah, just in the hills of Ghana.
Reach out to her. Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been gorgeous to talk to you.
Thank you so much for your time to listen to Effortless Attraction Podcast, and we really hope that today's episode has made a difference to your life. Now, a quick shout out to business owners, regardless of the size. Would you like to sponsor an episode of Effortless Attraction? I am always on the lookout for amazing businesses who love to make a difference in people's lives. So if you would like to sponsor an episode, we'd gladly advertise your business. Please reach out. It's Evelyn at evelynmcaleer.com. Thank you so much.